All right. We'll go ahead and get things started. Welcome everybody here to the annual general meeting of the Association for Challenged Horse Technology. Our bylaws require us to confirm a quorum of professional vendor members to be able to proceed with the meeting. And so the way we're going to facilitate this, down at the bottom of your screen in the chat function, please go ahead and pull that up. And I'm going to be calling out names of PVMs, but you do not need to wait for me to say your name. If you're here representing a PVM, please say, for example, Challenge Towers is present in the chat. And Mandy, as our secretary, will be noting who is here and helping me to confirm a quorum. So again, please do that in the chat as I read the names. Abby Inc., Adventure Designs and Training, LLC, Adventure Experiences, the Adventure Guild, Adventure Inc., the Adventure Network, Adventure Works Associates, Adventure Systems, Ltd., Aerial Designs, Alpine Towers International, American Adventure Park Systems, Beyond Ropes, Bonsai Designs, Challenge Design Innovations, Challenge Towers, Challenges Unlimited, Challenge Works, Edgy Designs, Adventure Builders, Experiential Resources, Experiential Systems, Exponent Challenge Technology Asia, High Five Adventure Learning, Leahy and Associates, Leadership on the Move, Outdoor Specialists, Pivotal Learning, Project Adventure, Project Adventure Japan, Ropeworks, Signature Research, Synergo, Vestal's Gap Ventures, Visionary Adventure, Wingspeed Adventures, and Zipline Korea. Again, if you're just joining us, we are currently taking roll of professional vendor members to confirm a quorum. If you have not already, if you are present representing a PVM, please type in the chat the name of your PVM and that you're present so that we can record that. Madam Secretary, do we have a quorum?
We do have a quorum.
Thank you, Mandy. All right. Welcome everybody here to the annual general meeting. We appreciate you taking the time to join us this evening. We've got a lot of folks that have put a lot of time into providing some great updates and information to share with you all tonight. The meeting will take about 90 minutes. We may finish a few minutes earlier than that, but it should last about that whole time. As we go through the meeting, a few things in terms of housekeeping. The chat function will be open. Rohan Shahani, one of our board members, will be facilitating the chat and trying to help make sure that folks' questions are answered on the sideline as needed. Mics will be muted, and cameras is up to you. You're not expected to have your camera on, but you are welcome to if you'd like. All the board members will have their cameras on, and their names are identified with their position in the board on the screen. I'm going to be sharing a few different supporting materials with you now through the chat. It'll take me just a second to do so. These supporting materials I will share again in the chat and try to keep those at your fingertips. The first one is the agenda. All right. I will also be sharing previous minutes from our previous AGM, financial reports, some bylaws changes, and a volunteer org chart. These are all documents that you can use as reference throughout the meeting. It's great to see a wonderful turnout here. We've got about 100 people and growing. That's fantastic. At this time, I'd like to ask Billy Simpson to read our mission statement.
Thanks, Carson. ACCT mission statement. The Association for Challenge Course Technology, ACCT, establishes and promotes the standard of care and measure of excellence that defines professional practice and effective challenge course programs. ACCT develops, refines, and publishes standards for installing, maintaining, and managing challenge courses, provides forums for education and professional development, and advocates for the challenge course and adventure industry.
Thanks, Billy. I'd like to ask Rohan Shahani to read our antitrust statement.
It is the policy of the Association for Challenge Course Technology, and it is the responsibility of every association member company to comply in all respects with federal and state antitrust laws. No activity or discussion at any association meeting or other function may be engaged in for the purpose of bringing about any understanding or agreement among members to raise, lower, or stabilize prices, regulate production, allocate markets, encourage boycotts, foster unfair trade practices, assist monopolization, or in any way violate federal or state antitrust laws. Any questions regarding the meaning or applicability of this policy, as well as any concerns regarding activities or discussions at association meetings, should be promptly brought to the attention of the association executive director or the chair of the board of directors.
Thank you, Rohan. In the chat, I've distributed the agenda, the official agenda for the meeting, so please pull that up and follow along if you'd like.
Paul would like to make a motion to review and approve the meeting agenda.
Thank you, Paul.
Victor seconds to approve the agenda.
Thank you, Victor. Just in terms of discussion, a quick review of the agenda. We'll have to approve our minutes from the 2020 AGM from Raleigh, North Carolina, our last conference. We'll have a report from me as the chair of the board of directors. We'll have a report from our executive director, Sean Tierney. We'll have a report from the treasurer, Cameron Annis. We'll have a series of reports from different committee chairs speaking to their activities of the past year and what they're doing moving forward. We will have an update about board elections and the results of those elections. We will handle any new business before we close the meeting. I'd like to note that the meeting will be fairly tightly scheduled. If you have any new business, you need to keep that in mind as we go through. Okay. Any other discussion? Any opposed? Any abstaining? Motion carries. We have an agenda. First item on the agenda is to approve the minutes from our previous AGM.
Paul will make a motion to approve previous minutes for 7th February 2020, the annual general meeting in Raleigh, North Carolina, and the United States of America.
Thank you, Paul.
Victor seconds to approve the minutes.
Thank you, Victor. These minutes are in the chat as well for review. Any discussion? Any opposed? Any abstaining?
Billy will abstain.
Thank you, Billy. Motion carries. We now have approved minutes. I'm going to give you a quick live update from your board of directors. Again, my name is Carson Rivers. I am the chair of your board of directors. I have also been serving as liaison to the consensus group and the board emeritus in the past year. I'm going to introduce the rest of the board who are all with us on the call today. We have Keith Jacobs, our vice chair and liaison to leadership and nominations. Mandy Stewart, our secretary. We have Cameron Annis, our treasurer and liaison to the finance committee. We have Bama Nazarim, who is a member and liaison to insurance and risk management committee. We have Paul Cummings, who is a member and liaison to the ethics committee. Victor Gallo who is a member and liaison to International Committee. Rohan Shahani, a member and liaison to Technical Information Research and Education, otherwise known as the TIRE Committee. Billy Simpson is a member and liaison to Accreditation and Certification. And Sean Tierney as Executive Director and non-voting member of the board. In terms of just a short-term future of the board, as of this meeting, is the final meeting for Mandy Stewart, Paul Cummings, who are both completing their 3-year terms. I want to thank them for their long terms of service and dedication to the association. Billy Simpson is completing a special 1-year term right now that was left vacant by Scott Andrews' exit from the board when he became a staff member a few years ago. He is currently seeking re-election for another 3-year term. Another thanks just to all 3 of them for their generous service. We'll talk about the results of the Board of Elections later on in the meeting, and you'll understand who some of those new board members are going to be to fill those big shoes. The first scheduled meeting of the new board will be February 3rd, 2021. And at that meeting, this happens every year, we sit down and redetermine who the officer roles are going to be, who the liaison roles are going to be, and kind of help the board take shape for the new year. And we will be in our current fiscal year, which operates a little bit different than the calendar year. Our current fiscal year will begin July 1st, 2021. During 2020, a large focus of ours on the board was simply pandemic response and converting to this virtual conference format, which we are obviously doing for the first time. I'm very excited to bring that event to you. I hope everyone is enjoying that event. And because of everything that's been going on in the world with the pandemic, we chose to postpone formal strategic planning until at least next year, just given all the uncertainties that we had. But we did set some fiscal year priorities, and we've been focusing specifically on organizational structure, volunteer management, virtual opportunities, alignment and harmonization of ACCT programs, international strategy, and financial planning. The board had a series of meetings just this past week, about 15 hours of Zoom meetings together. I want to thank the board for their patience for all those meetings. And we had a lot of you join us as guests, and we thank you for that as well, where we tried to make some progress on all these priorities and continue moving those forward. Again, our fiscal year will end June 30, and we'll pick up that new fiscal year July 1st. And after the start of the new fiscal year, we'll re-examine our priorities and or whether or not we're ready to dive into formal strategic planning at that time. With that report, I want to acknowledge Sean Tierney, our Executive Director. He works alongside our board to lead our association on a daily basis, does an excellent job, and has a tremendous staff that's done a lot of incredible work in the last year. And Sean's going to share a little bit about that with you. It's my honor to introduce to you our Executive Director, Sean Tierney, who will be providing us with a pre-recorded report.
Hey everybody, ACCT Executive Director Sean Tierney. The thing I want to do is acknowledge and recognize all the staff, all of the volunteers for all the amazing work that they have done over the past year. A year that was really filled with a lot of uncertainty and change. But the staff, first and foremost, for all of their work, that's Melissa Webb, Events Director, Heather Brooks, Program Manager, Scott Andrews, Policy Director, and John Vogelin, Office Manager. They really rallied, did an amazing job, along with all of the volunteers, the board emeritus, the committees, panels, work groups, task forces. We've got approximately 120 volunteers across all of those groups, and all of them, too many people to acknowledge and name individually, but they are all very worthy and very deserving of a huge amount of thanks for all the work that they've done. Again, in a year filled with just massive uncertainty and change due to the pandemic. So thank you to all the staff. Thank you all the volunteers. If you have served in any of these groups over the past year, thank you so much. You've all done an amazing job. I wanted to also thank all of our sponsors, I'm going to read the list. Tier 1 sponsor was Granite Insurance. Tier 2 sponsorship, PhotoFlow Aerial Adventures, Challenge Towers. Tier 3 sponsorship, Zola, Activities and Tours Marketing by TRK Creative Group, Headrush Technologies, Petzel, Werewolf, and our session track sponsors, Industry Business, Granite Insurance, Facilitation and Programming, Hibbs Hallmark, Operations Management, Granite Insurance, Technical, Ropes Park Equipment. Thank you to our sponsors for making all of this possible. So very briefly, key accomplishments in the last year since Raleigh. The main thing for me, my main objective for many of you who own and operate businesses, keep staff fully employed and remain financially viable. Achieve that goal in a very challenging year. I'm really proud that all of the staff were able to stay fully employed and engaged in their jobs. And we really needed that this past year. We provided really a multitude after Raleigh when the pandemic hit and everything closed down. We provided a lot of COVID-19 resources on our website for the industry, like a lot of other industry groups. But that was really valuable so that people could really figure out how to really get organized and ultimately to reopen during the pandemic. We organized also a series of virtual huddles, kind of piggybacking off of Adventure Park Insider, that were really well attended. It was approximately 11 hours of huddles that we organized, virtual huddles, to share resources with the industry and hear from the community about how people were coping with the pandemic and how their operations were doing. We launched a group health insurance plan for members early in the year, last year, right after the conference in Raleigh. The big thing that we did, we had to transition to a virtual conference. Our first ever. We've never done it before, obviously. So we had to figure out a platform. We had a very short time frame in which to pull it off. We had approximately 4.5 months, a short time frame to really plan something we've never done before. And I think the conference thus far has really been amazingly well planned. Thank you to the conference work group and Melissa, the events director, for really making sure that we've got a great virtual conference. The other thing is we launched Operation Accreditation. Long time in the making, but all good things are worth waiting for, and this is no exception. So thank you to everybody, all the volunteers who have worked in that really over the last 4 or 5 years. It's been many different people, different board members, but the volunteers have really driven that process and supported by our program manager, Heather Brooks. And we're really proud to have launched Operation Accreditation. And we have 2 accredited operators right now. So that's an amazing thing. We also transitioned to virtual ice testing. That's another accomplishment. We had to figure out how to do a testing event for inspector certification virtually. And now that we've got that. So again, in a year that was really filled with uncertainty, transition, change for just about every industry, just about every business, I'm really proud of all the work that the staff and all of the volunteers, no matter what committee, panel, work group that you've served on. A huge thank you and gratitude for all the work that you've done in the past year. And thank you again, everybody, for being at the AGM. Really great to have you here in attendance. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sean. Want to just take another moment to look at our sponsors. This is a wonderful group of folks that's really stood by us in the association this year in supporting this event, recognizing this is a different and new type of event. These folks took a little bit of a gamble to support us, and we really appreciate it. And we know that it's paying off. And if you see these folks around, please thank them for their support. Please go visit them. And these fantastic sponsors and other great exhibitors in our exhibit hall this week. Really a great group of folks down there in the exhibit hall. A lot of great things to check out. Sean mentioned during his talk there about 2 newly accredited operations in 2020. We launched the Operations Accreditation Program. And we wanted to take a moment to acknowledge and congratulate those 2 operations, French Broad Adventures in Marshall, North Carolina, and Quarry Park Adventures in Rockland, California. Both of these organizations went through a very rigorous process to become our first 2 accredited operations under the new Operation Accreditation Program, which is very, very exciting. Really glad to have them involved in our industry and our association. And I know that they'll wear their badge proudly. Really want to encourage other operations to go through this process. Speaking with the folks who went through it, it's been helpful for their operations, and we know it will be for others as well. Hope again that everyone will join us in congratulating them as you see them around the conference this week, or as you speak to them individually. Please take time to congratulate these folks on their accomplishments. Next, we're going to hear from Cameron Annis, our treasurer for our board of directors. In just a moment, I'll be providing the link to the finance report. I didn't quite get that one into the chat earlier, but I'm going to work to get that in there, so you'll have a handout to follow along and look at some of the P&L and balance sheets as you go through this. But at this time, it's my pleasure to introduce Cameron Annis, treasurer of our board of directors.
Thanks, Carson. I appreciate that. And I would encourage you guys to all go in and look at those reports. But we'll first start off with how the fiscal year 2020 ended, which ended this past June, kind of in the beginning stages or in the middle of the COVID crisis. And we did end up with a surplus, or as many of you guys know, in your organizations, a profit of $85,000 in that year, which was slightly ahead of what we had budgeted, which really helped us to increase our reserves to $482,000, which is on our way to a $500,000 reserve goal that the organization has set. And within those reserves of $482,000, one of the decisions the board made this year was to strategically set up CDs of different amounts that renew every 6 months with interest, more so that we can, gain more interest in those CDs rather than in a traditional savings account, so that we can have that reserve money working more for us within the association. Next, I'm going to talk a little bit about this year, which is, if you'll go to the next slide there, Carson. Thanks. The budgeting for this year. And as you guys know, just similar in a lot of your own organizations, developing this budget was very interesting. And thanks to the finance committee and board of directors for all their hard work that went into this. But we actually did budget a deficit or loss of $154,000 for FY21. Within that is acceptance of $61,000 of PPP money. And of course, this fiscal year will end June 30th of this year. And kind of to talk a little bit about how we're tracking to that budget. On this next slide, what you'll see here is, even though we did budget $154,000 deficit, we're actually tracking a little bit better than that. At the end of November, which is whenever we started pulling together some of these numbers and the reports that I pulled for this, we were at a $127,000 deficit compared to the $154,000 budget, which is better. And actually to date, we're even tracking better than that. The most updated number I got just about an hour ago was we're tracking to about $108,000 deficit. So it's continually getting better and better, still a deficit or a loss, but a lot better than it could have been otherwise. And you'll see those handouts, especially on the balance sheet. One key thing to note is, because of all of the hard work and awesome job to Sean and Carson, the previous treasurer, for the last several years, and getting that reserve account built up for situations such as this that we never anticipated we'd have to go through. But you'll see there on the balance sheet, the operating account has decreased from $227,000 to $129,000. That is obviously directly because we are budgeting in a deficit for this year, and that's where that reduction has come from. However, one good thing that you'll see is the reserves have not been touched, and we do not anticipate the reserves being touched any this year completing all the way through the end of this fiscal year at the end of June. If you have any questions on the financials, please feel free, throw those in the chat. Email me at my ACCT email anytime for any questions. And thank you for allowing me to serve the organization. It's my pleasure.
Thank you, Cameron. That's a great report. I'm happy that the association is on great financial footing in the middle of this pandemic. It's great to hear. Sharing files in the chat is a little bit challenging, but I have made them all get to the chat at this point. Hopefully folks are seeing those. They're PDFs. I'll continue to try to redistribute some of those again, just to make sure they're at people's fingertips. I have to kind of do them one at a time, but I'll keep doing that. The thing to pull up here and pay attention to is the volunteer org chart. It was one of the files that I distributed that helps you understand how some of the different committees and groups form together within the association, how they interplay, who reports to the board, who reports to other groups, etc. So if you're not familiar with all of these committees that we're going to hear from, that chart might help you a little bit if you want to pull that up and follow along. I just want to thank all the volunteers. Sean did this in his report, but I wanted to echo our appreciation for the somewhere between 100 and 150. We lose count and it's always changing. We have an enormous amount of volunteers currently serving the association and an even larger pool of folks who have previously served the association. It's really these committees, work groups, panels, task forces, affinity groups, and other types of volunteer groups that really drive the work that we do. We are very heavily volunteer based, including the board of directors are all volunteers as well. Well, thank everyone for their time and encourage folks that are listening along with us tonight to share your thanks with those volunteers, people that are giving of their time, and also consider volunteering yourself and contributing to the association as well. I'm going to go through a series of updates from chairs of these different groups. Each one is a pre-recorded message. You'll have some material to follow along with on the screen as they talk, but we'll sit back and be updated. We're going to start with Kennerly DeForest, the chair of the Accreditation and Certification Committee.
Good day, ACCT community. This is the Accreditation and Certification Committee Annual General Report. My name is Kennerly DeForest, and I am the vice chair of the committee and filling in right now as the chair. The ACC has had another busy year. There's been a huge amount of work completed by the panels and task forces of the program side of ACCT. I and the committee really want to thank all of the volunteers who have worked throughout the year, maintaining, growing, and developing the programs that support ACCT and our community. As the year developed, the work of the existing panels and task forces continued. It became clear that other areas required some focused attention. With that, several new task forces were developed, those being the vendor design enhancement, universal portfolio, the QCP update, as well as the vendor reviewer training. Those task forces were all stood up, created, had terms of reference created during the calendar year. So what follows on the next set of slides are the 2020 highlights from the ACC and each of the groups that work on the program side for ACCT, being the panels and the task forces. So for the ACC, we, with dedicated help from the staff, and we want to really thank our staff of ACCT for assisting us. We hosted a virtual program summit over 2 days where all of the different panels and task forces were able to join and share and update each other. Operation accreditation, we rolled out the program, and we also have 2 successfully completed applicants that have now been accredited to programs. Created and are still working through a program development policy, which is a workflow document for developing a new program within ACCT. We've stood up multiple task forces. We've worked on our appeals process, as well as we created an interim program requirements for the separation of installation and inspection accreditation services. That is going to be some of the groundwork that is used when the vendor design program enhancement task force gets to work. So that's for the ACC. On the panel side, we have vendor accreditation, who have been working, a lot of their focus was working on the vendor design enhancement. And we realized that they needed some more focused work on that. And so we created a task force that would separate out the work of the vendor accreditation panel from the maintenance work into the development side. For inspector certification, they had a very busy year. New policies, new ICE prep and updating, creating a virtual testing environment to respond to the COVID situation, developing and updating all of the tests, as well as updating eligibility requirements. The operational accreditation panel launched the program, completed 2 applications, created updates based on those, the experiences of running 2 complete accreditation applications. We're able to update some of the documents that are attached to that. So we go over to the task force now, operational reviewer training, and they have actually met all of the requirements of their terms of reference, and that task force is now disbanded. The vendor accreditation design, we have a new terms of reference, populating that, and there's a huge amount of work that has been done already that is going to be the basis of the work that they're going to pursue in 2021. We have a vendor reviewer training, just like the operational reviewer training. That task force has done their initial review and is going to take a quick hiatus while the vendor accreditation design work is done. There was a little cart before the horse with that one, and we want to make sure that the work that they do is has long-term value. Trainer credentialing. This task force has been hard at work and created a curriculum, and they are moving forward with working further on that. Their terms of reference is for creating that curriculum and handing it off. And they're very close to completion of that work. The QCP update task force, this is the newest one that we have, and they are populating that, or we are populating that, and a lot of the work from the Universal Portfolio Task Force is being used as a basis. The final is the Universal Portfolio Task Force, which has been very busy and done a huge amount of work, and a lot of the work that they have done has influenced decisions at the ACC level for additional work that we need to focus on. So looking at a digital format, looking at definitions, and trying to work out how to create the synergy with the existing portfolio templates. So that's really the work of the ACC. As we go, thank you. If there are any questions at all, please ask. I believe the best way to sort of channel those questions is through the ACCT office as a starting point, and then it'll get pushed to the correct people. Thank you very much, and enjoy the conference.
Thank you, Kennerly. There's a tremendous amount of work happening in the association's accreditation certification committee and all their subgroups, as is evident by that report. Next, we have Board Emeritus report, and that report will be given by Randy Smith.
Hello, this is Randy Smith, the chair of the ACT Board Emeritus. The members of this group include Jim Wall, Brian Lisson, Ken Jacko, Andrew Hubert, and myself. The Board Emeritus has spent the year working on projects designed to assist the ACT Board of Directors in addressing current policy needs. Some of the things that we worked on this year include the development of a proposal for an award to be given in the name of Tim Kemp. This project grew to include the development of an awards committee and the possibility of an award in the name of Carl Ronke. Current thinking is that the Tim Kemp Award would focus on leadership and the Carl Ronke Award would focus on creativity. These proposals are currently awaiting feedback from the board for finalization and implementation. Another project was the development of a policy to manage PVM mergers and acquisitions. This policy is in final form and has been given to the board for feedback and implementation. The third project was the development of formal procedures for the conduct of board of director elections. Modifications to this procedure were necessitated by the need for electronic voting during the pandemic. The proposed procedures include some bylaw revisions and also a detailed step-by-step procedure that can be used during board elections. The last thing we worked on was the development of revised policy and procedures for both the ethics and conflict of interest systems within ACT. This analysis and proposal is in its initial stage and is awaiting feedback from the board of directors so that it can be taken to the next level and developed for eventual implementation. So these are the things we worked on this year. Our plan for 2021 is to finalize those. And obviously we're available to address any issues that come up that the board might need assistance in dealing with. So that's it for me. Thanks.
Thank you, Randy. Just let everybody know, Rohan Shahani has just put in a new link in the chat. That's another way to access the files that were previously shared at the beginning of the meeting. So if there's anybody that's joining us more recently, there are supporting documents that are handouts to the meeting that can be found by following that link in the chat. Next up, we've got a consensus group. Report will be given by the chair, John Lazarus.
Hello, folks. My name is John Lazarus. I'm the chair of the ACT-ANSI Consensus Group. It's our job to process proposed draft standards through our accredited procedures. We have a 15-member committee, 14 positions which are filled with 1 vacancy. Those members are in the vendor category, myself as the chair, Pete Sawyer as vice chair, Pete Jacobs, Etienne LeBlanc, Dave Merrill. In the user category, we have Paul Chapman, Sean Moriarty, Louis McCurley, Joe Peters, and Mitch McWilliams. And in the general category, we have Rhonda Mickelson, Richard Borland, Curtis Britcher, Leslie Soul, and the 1 vacant position. Our secretary and ANSI accreditation guru is Scott Andrews. Persons interested in applying for a position on the consensus group can refer to the ACT website and the consensus group page, which has the specific application which is required to submit to the group for consideration. In the last year, we've been focused on the members refining their internal processes, including documentation of internal procedures and looking at the scope of the current published standards and assessing the direction of future standards revisions. The association has received several proposed standard drafts through its official portal from both ACT's internal committees and members of the general industry to be considered in the next revision. And members of the CG are getting ready to start to discuss these proposed drafts in order to create the PINS forms which need to be submitted to ANSI announcing our formal revision of the ACT standards. Other tasks included in the year are working on information documents used to educate members and the general public regarding our overall ACT ANSI standards development process. Revising the minutes recording processes during the meetings and refining of the secretary to the consensus group's jobs responsibilities to allow for more efficient organization of the tasks and responsibilities of the members. For additional information, if you're interested, you can find it on the ACT website at actinfo.org, and we hope that everyone has a safe and healthy new year. And please reach out to the association if you have additional questions regarding our standards development process. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Next up, we have newly minted Chair Tim Prairie of the Ethics Committee.
Greetings, my name is Tim Prairie, and I am here to give an update on the Ethics Committee. The job of the Ethics Committee is to develop and maintain the ACCT Code of Ethics, to review conflict of interest forms that come through the association and identify potential conflicts of interest, to facilitate the grievance process for ACCT members, and to recommend remedies to affected parties following completion of that grievance process. 2020 has been a pretty busy year for the Ethics Committee. We've had a number of grievances filed with a lot of different varied levels of complexity. We've also been doing a lot of work on revising and updating the Code of Ethics. A lot of that work is still in process. However, we're hoping that in the months to come, not only will we have revised the current Code of Ethics, but we'll also have been able to streamline some of the grievance processes for simplicity and clearer understanding of the grievance process by the industry at large. It's important for y'all to know that at the end of 2020, long-term chair of the Ethics Committee, Charlie Williams, stepped down, passing the torch he'd been carrying for a really long time. Michelle Hepler also decided to step down at the end of 2020 to focus her efforts on other areas of the ACCT. And currently, the members of the Ethics Committee are Jennifer Martyr and myself. We are actively seeking new people to join us and to help us through some of these processes. So please, if that is something that you're interested in, reach out to us and let us know. The easiest way for you to reach out would be to send an email to ethics@acctinfo.org, or you could go on the website and find a volunteer application and fill that out and send it in. I think that's about all we have for the Ethics Committee right now. Again, if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out and we will be happy to help facilitate as best we can. Thanks and many blessings. Bye now.
Thank you, Tim. All right, next up we have Finance Committee. Report will be given by Jen Ottinger, the chair.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jen Ottinger with High Five Adventure Learning Center, and I serve as chair of the ACCT Finance Committee. The committee is charged with assisting the board to develop fiscal policies and best practices, monitor financial trends, coordinate audits, ensure that policies, procedures, and budget protocols are in the best interest of ACCT, and foster long-term financial sustainability for the organization. We meet monthly as a committee, and a subcommittee also meets biweekly with the board president and treasurer to monitor financial developments and projections. This past year, we've monitored operating and reserve accounts, reviewed the annual budget prior to its adoption, submitted a financial policies and procedures document to the board, begun preparing for a multi-year audit, which has been postponed to next fiscal year to defer the cost of this project. We continue to and look forward to assisting the board and to work with other committees and groups on various topics at their request. Like all of us, the pandemic has disrupted the organization's operations and business model, and will continue to assist the board in adapting and making the best financial decisions for the organization, which could include supplementing the current budget with reserve funds for the first time in many years. But the organization is on sound financial footing, and we're confident that the right plans are in place to weather this storm. Thank you.
Thank you, Jen, and all that you and the Finance Committee do. Next up is going to be Insurance and Risk Management with a report given by Randy Smith, the chair.
Hello, this is Randy Smith, chair of the Insurance and Risk Management Committee. The members of this committee include Bob Ryan, Becky Staley, who's a new member, Robert Monahan, Cameron Anus, Scott Andrews, who's our staff liaison, and Baman Osram, who is our board liaison. Work by the Insurance and Risk Management Committee in the past year includes some of the following. In 2019, we helped identify and develop a group health insurance plan that could be offered to ACT members. This program was rolled out at the conference in February and has been advertised in the ACT newsletter throughout the year. Unfortunately, due to the pandemic, this was not a great year for companies to start up new health insurance plans, so no policies have been written at this point. We hope to continue to offer this opportunity in hopes that folks may find a need and look into it in the coming year. One of our other projects was to submit some articles for the ACT newsletter around the topics of insurance and risk management to help keep everyone informed with latest updates and changes. And so we did submit a few of those this year, and we're going to continue to do that in 2021. In 2019, we began a program to analyze insurance loss data for our industry. Access to this data has been provided with our ongoing relationship with Hibbs Hallmark and Granite Insurance. The analysis is being done by Appalachia State University. This year, we've worked to formalize our relationship with the university to update the analysis on an annual basis and to include additional analysis parameters. Updated data was submitted for 2020 and is now being analyzed. And the results of that will again be presented at the conference in the Incident Data Trends and Solutions workshop. So we encourage you to attend that and hopefully get some insights from that information. At our fall meeting, we did our annual analysis of the ACT insurance policies and coverages. We do this every year to look for gaps and or overlaps in the coverage because of new association offerings or exposures. As a result of that analysis, no recommendations were made for any changes to those policies at this time. The last thing that we worked on was a project to review all the minimum insurance requirements and recommendations for individuals and companies who participate in the various ACT credentialing programs. All of these have been reviewed and updated, and I think a couple new ones added. Last year, we also made recommendations for evaluating insurance coverage for international applicants where their local requirements vary from the US norms. This year, we've made some additional recommendations for updating that process. So that's pretty much what we've been working on this year. We'll continue to do those things and in particular try to develop information to keep everyone updated on current insurance and risk management issues. So thanks a lot for listening.
Thank you, Randy. The Insurance and Risk Management Committee is involved in a few different workshops, great workshops this year. The one he specifically mentioned around incident trends, I believe is tomorrow at 9 a.m. Mountain. Cameron is give me a thumbs up if I've got that right. Yeah, so tomorrow at 9 a.m. Mountain time, translate that to your own time zone, will be the presentation of that incident data. It's going to be a great workshop. Next up, we're going to have the International Committee. With the International Committee, I want to acknowledge we've got a change in leadership here that's just happened. Ken Jaco has been serving as chair there for a number of years now, and he will be providing the report today. But he is our outgoing chair, and wanted to recognize incoming chair Colin Keynes. We're excited about his leadership in this committee. We'll listen to Ken provide us a report there.
Hello, ACCT. This is Ken Jaco with International Committee. I am the chair. It's made up of Nellis, Colin King, Mark.
Apologies. I'm going to try to pause that and see if we can get that playing a little bit more clearly.
Hello, ACCT. This is Ken Jaco with the International Committee. I am the chair. It's made up of Wayne L.
My apologies for that. I know we'd have at least one technical glitch in the meeting. I am going to work on getting that one up and running. In the meantime, I'm going to go ahead and move to leadership and nominations. I'll pull up a separate file for that video so that we can see that one for international. We'll listen to Gary Big Dog Sweetak provide us an update on leadership and nominations in the meantime.
Hello, I'm Big Dog. I'm with the Leadership and Nominations Committee. Just want to put the word out there that as most committees, we're still looking for committee members. Through the spring, we were a committee of 2, always looking for people to help us out with our goals. We're tasked with helping develop systems and people to improve the recruitment for board positions, committee chair positions, helping committees fill their positions as needed, and always looking for people with ideas on how to do this. So once again, that's the Leadership and Nominations Committee. My name is Big Dog. It's also, my given name is Gary Sweetak. If you have questions about the committee, if you're interested at all, you can always contact me at bigdogsweetak@gmail.com, or you can go through channels and contact the office, and Sean or anybody in the office can get you pointed in the right direction. There is a process you'll need to, once you figure out what's going on, if you're interested, there is an application process, and then we get hold of you and we can keep you busy. So here's a plug for the Leadership and Nominations Committee. You'll be hearing other committees looking for people. Once again, let us know if you're interested in any committee work. We'd love to have you. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Gary. Still working on getting the international video up. I've almost got that ready. While I'm working on that still, we will listen to the Technical Information Research and Education Committee, otherwise known as the TIRE Committee, the report given by Rich Kleinschek, the chair.
Greetings, everyone. I'm happy to report that your new TIRE Committee has accomplished a number of important tasks in this past year. The TIRE Committee replaces the longstanding design, performance, and inspection and operations standards groups, as well as the Standards Development Committee. And our goal is to continue the critical work of these groups, but with an increased speed, efficiency, and dexterity. We've also expanded the number of people that are involved in this process, and I'm really excited to get more emerging leaders up to speed. TIRE Committee priorities are reflected in the name of the group. First part, technical information. This refers to publications and writings related to the equipment, systems, elements, courses, and technology that we interact with in our industry. entire committee will create and publish white papers, technical bulletins, and draft standards for the consensus group to consider. Research is the R part. So in order to find out and publish the best quality information for you, we have to engage in rigorous research and review. And last but not least is education, the E at the end. And that group, which has a task force right now, aims to regularly communicate with the industry at large on an ongoing basis through publications, through presentations, web seminars, and other efforts to spread the knowledge that we've gained throughout the community as best as possible. So the highlights of our 2020 work are: we formed 4 task forces to draft revisions to the DPI standard. And the ones that have completed their work are operating systems and zipline brakes. And that work has been sent to the consensus group for their work. And then ground anchors and critical rope groups are still in process. The other task force is the educational task force, which is working alongside the ACT Academy. Aside from me as the chair, the entire committee consists of some of the most excellent and capable people we have. Michelle Hepler is the vice chair, Sarah Osterhaus is the secretary, and other members are Corey Hampton, Kathy Harris, Randy Smith, Josh Todd, and John Winter. We look forward to a very productive 2021. Thank you.
Thank you, Rich. In the chat, it's just being acknowledged that there are other work groups of the association, staff work groups. One that's being mentioned in the chat specifically and being acknowledged for their work is the membership work group that has done quite a bit to help recruit and place volunteers and get those systems and processes improved. So we appreciate folks acknowledging that in the chat and thank them for their work. It's almost ready to have this international. What happens is if I click on something, it pauses the video. So I have to kind of go in between other people trying to give their presentations in order to get that international one back in line. And it's going to take a minute to finish getting that downloaded and up on the screen. If you all will forgive me and allow me to move forward in the agenda, I promise I will come back to the international report. I'm not going to leave that hanging. Keith, while I'm working on that, I want to go ahead and get you keyed up here to do our Board of Directors elections update. Keith Jacobs is our vice chair of your Board of Directors, and he'll be providing a live report regarding board elections.
Great, thank you very much, Carson. All right. Want to recap a little bit of the 2020 election process. We run 2 parallel elections, a general membership election, which is carried on the way it's traditionally been with online voting, and a PVM position election, which required some modifications this year since our bylaws had required those to be held in person. This required, as Randy Smith has already said, some exploratory work by the Board Emeritus, which resulted in us getting some advice as the Board of Directors, including some draft bylaws and draft procedure changes. These were shared with the PVMs as part of getting feedback on the parts of the bylaw changes that would affect them. And the board approved those bylaws. Those bylaws have been, I believe, updated in your chat function if you wanted to review those. And then the PVM voting was conducted online in a similar fashion to how the general membership election has been performed. We had 1 open seat for the general election, and we had 4 candidates. I want to thank all 4 of those candidates. Stephen Coppin from Candia Springs Adventure Park, Connor James with Aspen Skiing Company, Jason Ong with NRS, and Michael Richardson with Momentum Engineering. My apologies to anyone if I mispronounced your name. I want to thank you all for showing willingness to serve ACCT. In the PVM election, we had 2 open seats, and we had 5 candidates for those positions. Niels Dahman with Experiential Resources, Corey Hampton with French Broad Adventures and Challenge Towers, Billy Simpson with Abbey, Lauren Stover with North Carolina State University, and Corey Wall with Challenge Design Innovations. Again, thank you to these candidates for demonstrating a willingness to serve. And we have some results. In the general membership elected seat, we want to congratulate Connor James with Aspen Skiing Company. And in the PVM elected seats, we did have a clear front runner, Corey Hampton from French Broad Adventures and Challenge Towers. But we also have a tie. 2 returning champions, Niels Dahman, who's previously been on the board, and Billy Simpson, who's on right now, will be going through a runoff election. But congratulations to those we know who won, and we look forward to announcing to the rest coming up this Friday. So for the PVM companies that will vote in the runoff, again, this is only for the PVM seats. The candidates will be Niels Dahman and Billy Simpson. PVMs will receive a new updated ballot via email to the same address that the last one was sent. Voting will begin immediately upon ending of this AGM. You'll get an email, and it will close at noon Mountain Time on Friday, the 29th. That's this Friday. This will allow us to share the results of the runoff election at the ACCT awards ceremony sometime after 6 p.m. Mountain Time on Friday. Please show up for that. We want to offer our luck to the remaining candidates for the election and encourage all PVMs to participate in that. And with that, Carson, thank you. I will throw it back to you.
Thank you, Keith, and congratulations to our new board members. We are excited to have you join us in the room. I am working through pulling the International Committee update back on the screen. There is the bullet points that are going to get slightly covered up. I'll try to shrink this down a little bit. Keith, could you give me a thumbs up if you're seeing the new video overlaid? Okay, great. Hopefully this will work a little bit better. I appreciate everyone's patience.
Hello, ACCT. This is Ken Jocko with the International Committee. I am the chair. It's made up of Wayne Ellis, Colin Keynes, Mark DaCosta, Pavel Gayton, and Victor Gallo as our Board of Director Liaison. 2020 was another pain in the rear end, which we had to cancel our fall conference in Taiwan. But it's also allowed us to become more focused on our relationship with the board of directors or the administration, and how do we improve our relationship and interactions with the international membership. 2021 is giving us an opportunity to focus on the virtual ACCT conference, bringing in a new chair to our committee who is international, Colin Keynes, which we're very excited about, being chaired by an international PVM. We're going to be doing periodic streaming sessions, working and talking and communicating with international operators and how they're been able to cope and work within the new COVID world, promoting ICE certifications on an international basis, looking at international regulatory efforts, translations of our standards, and we're still hopeful in hosting a 2021 Fall International Conference. It's been an honor to work with this group to support the relationship that ACCT has with the international community. And I look forward to continuing to support this effort as we move forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Ken. Okay. Get back on track here. Rohan, do we have any questions in the chat that we need to read and then I can respond to?
Not at this time.
Is there any new business? Okay, with that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Bauman seconds.
Thank you, Mandy. Thank you, Bauman. Just as discussion, thank you again for everyone here attending. We had well over 100 folks here on the call with us, and I'm not sure how many other folks might be following along with us through YouTube and our streaming there. Really appreciate all the chairs putting in the work to make the videos, to provide us with those great updates, and to all the board directors joining me here today to help facilitate. Appreciate everyone's help. Want to call everyone's attention to next year's AGM, hopefully in 2022 in Cleveland, Ohio, is where we're hoping to get back to hosting live events again and enjoying the socialization that we all miss right now in person, and being able to spend time with one another in Cleveland. We look forward to that. Any further discussion? All right, any opposed? Any abstaining? Okay, motion carries. The meeting is adjourned at 7:08 Mountain Time. Thank you.